like to talk about the courses that are going to be offered on an academy platform. In fact, the courses are going to be launched today, that is July 7th. There are two offers from SSC point of view and bank's point of view. SSC now or never the marker. So, what are the two offers in the month of July? July offers one, an academy promise offer only SSC. 1 year subscription, additional you get 6 months. 2 year subscription, additional you get 12 months. Actual price 11,700 and current price 5,850. For 2 year subscription, actual price 14,300, current price 7,020. Set preparation offer. The second offer is set preparation offer, SSC plus bank. 1 year you get additional 6 months and current actual price 14,088, current price 7,999. And 2 year subscription, additional you get 12 months and actual price 19,998, current price is 9,999. All these courses, 5 courses are going to be launched today, are from the top educators. These are the top batches. And when it comes to SSC, Unacademy is the best platform. Why? Every week you get 30 plus batches and 300 plus classes daily, 70 plus educators, a wide range, those with experience and expertise, 40,000 hours of recorded content, 20,000 plus practice questions, trusted by over 90% SSC aspirants. These are the best educators, and there are 5 courses which are going to be launched today. 1,000 plus selection batch SSC CGL 2020, SET Brahmastra batch, all government exams, All Stars batch SSC CGL and CHSL 2021-22 exams, SSC CGL and CHSL 2021 exams, and there is a strong lineup of 5 batches. And in the month of July, there is going to be a price hike. So you should better enroll now or never. And if you use my referral code, what is my referral code? Kollapadi 4-5077. You get 10% discount. So that's all about courses being offered by an academy being launched on 7th July, that is today. Now let us go to the editorial analysis. Today's editorial is all about the injustice done to indigenous children in Canada or indigenous children of Canada. If you take the US and Canada, the people we see today, they are not the indigenous people. Many of them migrated from or emigrated from Europe, many of them. Different countries like Germany, Spain, the UK, and Russia, Poland, so many countries. The indigenous people, usually we use the expression Red Indians. So this talks about between 1883 and 1996, what happened? Many schools were established in Canada for indigenous children. In those schools, many kids were not allowed to use their language. They were not allowed to meet their parents, and many of them died. Recently, they have discovered many graves, and in those graves, and also they have found the remains of many children. So it is like a genocide. This editorial, a lot of words are there which are very important from the exam point of view, and it is an editorial you may get as a passage, either closed test or passage, so an important one. Now, what are the words you are going to learn from today's editorial? Genocide. This has been given in bank exams many a time. What is the meaning of genocide? I would like to highlight these words because these are very important from the exam point of view. Genocide means killing people of a particular race or community or a nation on a large scale. That is known as genocide. And indigenous people, that is very important. Native people, you have got the word indigenous many a time. Indigenous industries means what? Local industries. Systemic, that not systematic is different, systemic is different. It means what? Related to the whole of something, the whole system. related to the whole system, not individual parts. Spotlight, it has got two different meanings. One meaning goes with the studios, shooting, movies, TV, all these means a particular light which is focused from above on a particular actor. It also goes with theater. But in this context, spotlight means to be in the public, to get the public attention. He is in the spotlight. That particular issue is in the spotlight. Means what? Everyone talks about that, the media writes about that. Savages, extremely cruel, barbaric, savage, belonging to the past. Squalid, a new word you have got for the first time. It means in a very dirty condition, dirty, filthy, and neglected condition. Usually it goes with a place, squalid, an important word. Aboriginal, original inhabitants of a place. We use the word aboriginals. That's also an important word. Reparations, another important word which you have to remember, means the payments for the injustice done in the past. Someone has to pay because that particular country or organization or an individual has done something or had done something in the past. To do justice, they have to pay. That is known as reparations, an important word. Today, you're going to work on error location, not that difficult. Paragraph, it has been quite some time. Close test, editorial words and meanings as usual. Now, let us go to this particular editorial, a bit disturbing and touching, but there's so much to learn. Cultural genocide. Generally, genocide goes with killing of people, people of a particular race, community, a nation on a large scale. If they are killed, we use the word genocide. But here it talks about cultural genocide, means what? Killing a particular culture. Whose culture in this context? The culture of indigenous people or native people or aboriginals of Canada. Canada should ensure justice for indigenous community who suffered systemic violence. Now, there are two words over here. What is the main idea of this editorial? Something happened in Canada and something that is very bad happened to the indigenous people. Based on that, the editorial says Canada should ensure justice for indigenous community. They have to do something, and it should be justified. Who suffered systemic violence. There are two words, indigenous, local or native. It goes with people, it goes with industries, and systemic, something that is related to the whole system, not the individual parts. The recent discovery, now it provides a background information. Recently, they've discovered hundreds of graves in Canada, and based on that, they have written this particular editorial. The recent discovery of hundreds of graves in Canada has put the spotlight back on its dark past. Now, this sentence talks about recently they have discovered, some NGOs have discovered hundreds of graves, and this particular discovery has put spotlight back on Canada's dark past. Canada has dark past that is treating indigenous people in inhuman way, and this particular discovery has put the spotlight back on Canada on its dark past, when indigenous people faced a systemic discrimination and violence. The recent discovery of hundreds of graves in Canada has put the spotlight back on its dark past, when indigenous people faced a systemic discrimination and violence. Again, there's one word, discrimination. You try to discriminate people means what? Either you ill treat or you try to show bias or prejudice based on a race, religion, community, or whatever the background. So discriminate, don't discriminate people on the basis of religion, creed, or whatever it is, a standard sentence. Now, it provides specific information, backdrop information. In June, the Cowessess First Nation, an indigenous organization, perhaps an NGO, found 751 unmarked graves at the site of a former residential school in Saskatchewan. So it talks about the discovery, the finding. A particular organization, it is known as Cowessess First Nation, an indigenous organization for indigenous people, found 751 unmarked graves at the site of a former residential school in Saskatchewan. This came a month after another indigenous organization discovered the remains of 215 children at a closed residential school in British Columbia, a place in Canada. These two sentences talk about the discoveries related to the residential schools, the graves near the residential schools, and something very disturbing. Canada's residential school system was a telling example, an important expression, a telling example of how indigenous people were treated. Now, based on this discovery, we can infer, we can get an idea how these indigenous people were treated for about 100 years, for over a century. Between 1882 and 1996, an estimated 150,000 children were sent to residential schools that were funded by the federal government and run mostly by the Catholic Church. Most of these students were forcefully taken away from their families, and thousands never returned. Very simple sentences you can understand. It talks about almost a century between 1882 and 1996. An estimated 150,000 children were sent to residential schools. This is all about how the children were treated at the residential schools. Who are these children? Children of indigenous people that were funded by the federal government and run mostly by the Catholic Church. Most of these students were forcefully taken. It was not something that they sent on their own. They were forcefully taken away from their families, and thousands never returned. Many children were taken away using force, and many of them did not. Thousands of them did not return, and thousands never returned. What happened? It talks about editorial talks about that. In 1883, Canada's first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald, defended in Parliament the system of residential schools, saying Indigenous students should be kept away from their parents who are savages. That is a bit not acceptable in the real sense. What does it mean? When they started the residential schools, some people, for indigenous children, some people must have criticized. Based on that, they wanted to justify. Canada's first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald, defended. How did he defend? How did he try to justify? Defended in Parliament the system of residential schools, saying indigenous students or indigenous kids should be kept away from their parents who are savages. Savage is an important word. It goes with, it means uncivilized, very cruel, extremely cruel. So it goes, a person who is not civilized. The children, based on that, the children were not allowed to speak their languages or practice their culture. They had to struggle a lot. Imagine you're not allowed to speak your language, you're not allowed to practice your culture. Obviously, you get suffocated, you feel suffocated. Many were abused. There's another word. Abuse has got three different meanings. One is misuse of something, usually power or authority. Second, shouting at someone using foul language. Third, to treat in a cruel way, either a person or an animal. Treating a person or an animal in a cruel way, we use the word abused. He has been abused. The children have been abused. An estimated 4,000 children died, huge numbers, mainly due to TB, malnutrition, and other illnesses resulting from the squalid conditions in the schools. Again, this is a new word we have got for the first time. Squalid, very dirty and not tidy and neglected, squalid, filthy, squalid conditions in the schools. Because of that, TB, malnutrition, and other illnesses resulting from what? Squalid conditions. Despite these horrors, the residential school system continued for over a century. All these are horrors against children, innocent kids, and despite contrasting word preposition, despite these horrors, the residential school system continued for over a century, almost 100 years, 1883 to 1996. In 2008, now coming to the present, in 2008, Prime Minister Stephen Harper issued a formal apology. Now they issued a formal apology, the government. The government also set up a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. There is one important word, reconciliation, reconcile. It has two different meanings. One meaning, reconciliation, there are two parties, initially they didn't agree with each other, but later they agreed with each other. Then we say they have reconciled the differences, one meaning. Another meaning of the word reconcile, you're not happy with the present situation and you try to change it. but eventually you realize you cannot change and you accept that unpleasant situation and you continue, you move on. Then also you have reconciled to the fact that you're not rich or you're not intelligent or you're not diligent, whatever it is. So the government also set up a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to document the history and the lasting impact of the school system on the indigenous communities. Lasting impact, a good expression, means last for a long time, exist for a long time. Lasting impact of the school system on the indigenous communities. In 2015, again present, the commission called the violence against the indigenous students a cultural genocide, the main idea of the editorial. This particular commission, the government has set up a commission, Reconciliation Commission, and this particular commission called the violence against the indigenous students or children a cultural genocide. It has made 94 calls to action to different levels of the government and communities that included independent investigations and steps to protect Aboriginal rights and culture. So this particular commission, it has made 94 calls to action to different levels of the government, perhaps different departments or different agencies and communities that included independent investigations and steps to protect Aboriginal rights and culture. There's one word over here, Aboriginal. Aboriginal means what? Original inhabitant of a particular place. A particular place belongs to a particular group of people. Since, if you go into the past, from the beginning, they have been living over there. They are known as Aboriginals. If you go to Australia, you come across Aboriginal tribes. You go to North American continent, which includes the US, Canada, and Central America, Mexico. So there also, especially the US and Canada, you come across Aboriginal people, Red Indians. They are known as Red Indians. It also asks the Catholic Church to apologize and take steps towards reconciliation. So this particular commission, it has done something. It has also asked the Catholic Church to apologize and take steps towards reconciliation. The Vatican, Catholic Church, the headquarters, Vatican City. The Vatican is yet to formally apologize for the schools. Justin Trudeau, who came to power in 2015, had promised that addressing the grievances of the indigenous communities was a core agenda. Perhaps at the time of elections, Justin Trudeau, who came to power in 2015, had promised something. Had promised what? That addressing the grievances of the indigenous communities was a core agenda. There is one word, core, means the essential thing, the basic, the essential thing of something. But 6 years later, indigenous organizations say the authorities are half hearted. Already you must have come across the expression wholehearted, half hearted, not really interested, perhaps superficial. The back to back discoveries of unmarked graves strengthen indigenous organizations' claims that the actual number of the dead is way above the estimates of the commission. Commission must have given a particular number, but the NGOs and also the discovery of back to back discoveries of unmarked graves strengthen indigenous organizations' claims. The NGOs, the indigenous organizations' claims, they talk about the number could be way above the estimates of the commission. Mr. Trudeau has expressed guilt over the abuses. Abuses, Mr. Trudeau has expressed guilt, but that is not enough. The editorial says expressing guilt is not enough. His government should assist indigenous organizations to find unmarked graves. Still, some graves are there. The government has to assist indigenous organizations to find those unmarked graves. He should order investigations into the residential schools with graves to get to the bottom of the matter, to find out the actual reason, bottom of the matter. Get to the bottom of the matter, an important expression you got to remember. Mr. Trudeau should also accelerate, speed up steps to implement all the recommendations of the Reconciliation Commission to ensure reparations are done to the country's indigenous community. There's one important word. So this sentence talks about fag end of the editorial. Mr. Trudeau should also accelerate steps, speed up steps to implement all the recommendations of that particular commission, the Reconciliation Commission, to ensure reparations. That's an important word. What exactly does it mean? Reparations, payments done to a particular community or a particular country because of the harm done in the past. are done to the country's indigenous community. So this is all about the editorial, something very disturbing and in a way injustice done to the indigenous people. Now let us go to the words which are very important. Genocide. They have given an SBI many a time this particular word. The intentional killing of all of the people of a nation, religion, a racial group, or a community. People who belong to a particular community or race or group or religion or nation, they're wiped out. Then we use the word genocide. Indigenous industries, indigenous people, two combinations, originating or occurring naturally in a particular place, or simply you can remember native. Thank you very much. And systemic, relating to or involving a whole system, not a particular part of a system, the whole system. Spotlight, we have got many a time, receiving a lot of public attention. Someone is in the spotlight, everyone talks about that person. Savages, extremely violent, wild, or frightening, in a way uncivilized. To express, to convey the idea someone is uncivilized, barbaric, we use savages. He is a savage, animal like, squalid of a place. It goes with a place, extremely dirty and unpleasant, especially as a result of poverty or neglect. Two factors, one is poverty, the other one neglect. Aboriginal, another important word, a member of a race of people who were the first people to live in a country. Aboriginals of Australia, Aboriginals of the North American continent. Reparations, payment for harm, loss, or damage done in the past. Abuse, a new meaning. Usually, abuse, you all know, misuse of power, misuse of authority. Another meaning, shouting at someone using foul language or bad language, abusive language. But here, abuse, a third meaning of the word abuse, cruel and violent treatment of a person or animal. You treat someone or some animal in a cruel way, then we use abuse. Usually, we talk about child abuse. Children are abused. So, this is an important word. Reconciliation, another important word. The process of making two opposite beliefs, ideas, or situations agree, or persons agree. One meaning. What is the other meaning? You are not happy with your situation, some unpleasant situation. You try to change, but you could not, and you gave up. Then finally, you accept the fact. What is the fact? You cannot change and you move on. Then we say, he has reconciled to the fact that he cannot become something. That's also an important meaning. Now, what are the questions you can think of based on this particular editorial? As usual, what is this editorial about? What has put the spotlight back on Canada's dark past? Look at the expressions spotlight, dark past, Canada's dark past. In the editorial, they have used its dark past. I've changed it to Canada's dark past. Keywords you can navigate, locate. What was a telling example how indigenous people were treated? Again, easy to answer. Who said indigenous students should be kept away from their parents who are savages? This is again something not acceptable. Perhaps they had their own reasons, but still, who said indigenous students should be kept away from their parents who are savages? Who called the violence against the indigenous students a cultural genocide? Someone termed this particular injustice or the violence against the indigenous students or indigenous children, they have termed it as cultural genocide. So, who has called it a cultural genocide? Again, easy to answer. Now, let us go to practice questions based on exam topics. The first five questions deal with error location. Today, you're going to work on para jumbles and close test after a gap of perhaps a week or so. So, please go to question number one. A lengthy sentence looks like a paragraph. Where is the error? Editorial is about the discrimination and genocide of the indigenous people. Yes, that's right. Very good, Preetham. The editorial is about the genocide of indigenous people of Canada. Not all of them, the children, especially student community at the residential schools. Editorial is about the genocide of indigenous students at the residential schools of Canada. More specific. Very good. A lengthy sentence, but if you know, if you're good at prepositional combinations, of fixed prepositions, you will be able to spot the error. And I'm glad a lot of students have got it right within no time. As tensions between illegal gold miners and indigenous communities erupt into an important expression, but the word erupt goes with volcanoes, volcanic eruption. And you got to think of the word, the break out, the phrasal verb. The phrasal verb break out, broke out goes with fire, clashes, diseases, and volcanic eruptions. Into open violence in the Brazilian Amazon, legislators are aggressively pursuing measures aimed for is not correct. It should be aimed at. The verb aim takes either for or at. Aim for success. That is also right. But based on the context, you have to decide whether you have to use at or for. In this context, aimed at curtailing, restricting, or bringing down protections of the territories and rights of indigenous people. So aim at, that is right. Now please go to, the question is about prepositions, fixed prepositions or prepositional combinations. To grill without singeing, that's a new word, the planet. Avoid lighter fluid and easy like charcoal, which emit chemicals. This is the word I have come across, I myself have come across for the first time. To grill without singeing the planet. Avoid lighter fluid and easy like charcoal, which emit chemicals. No, there are two things. Avoid what? Lighter fluid and easy light charcoal. There is a conjunction and then you cannot say emits. That is not right. Look at the conjunction. What is the conjunction over here? It is not or, it is and. Then why all the students? Very surprising. To grill without singeing the planet, avoid lighter fluid and easy light charcoal. Why you said charcoal? Because of that, very good. Which emit chemicals. No, still I'm not convinced. Here, actually, it talks about two things. Avoid lighter fluid and easy light charcoal. They are not one and the same, two different things. Two types of charcoal. One is lighter fluid, the other one easy light charcoal. Lighter fluid charcoal and easy light charcoal. And based on that, nothing wrong with the word emit. Who is this? Prithviraja says no error. Raviteja says no error. Answer is no error whatsoever. There is no error. The sentence is absolutely right. No error. To grill without singeing. Singe means to burn lightly. To burn. Burn lightly the planet. So that's what it means. There is no error whatsoever. Now please go to sentence number, where is sentence number two? Hmm. Now go to sentence number three. Sentence number two, there is no error. Please go to sentence number three. As a child living in the outskirts of Sao Paulo, Brazil, Patricia Medici spent her playtime walking along the trails in the forest and watching animals. This is an important one. Without harming, without damaging, without singeing. Nothing wrong with that. Outskirts always in the, usually at least I would like to say, plural form. Outskirts, nothing wrong with that. Outskirts of a city, city and the borders, we use outside the city, just outside the city, we use the expression outskirts of the city. No. As a child, that goes into the past, spent her playtime. Nothing wrong with that. Not an easy one. It is not in the outskirts, it should be on the outskirts. Where is the error? On the outskirts, on campus, on the first floor, on the second floor. That way, on the outskirts, not in the outskirts. It should be on the outskirts of Sao Paulo, Brazil. It is again a question related to prepositions, an important one. Now go to question number 4. There is an error. I have given the error. On the outskirts. No, as a child, then it goes into the past. Then you cannot say spent. As a child, I spend my time somewhere. It has to be in the past. Not easy, on the outskirts. One word is enough to spot the error. But if you don't focus on that particular word, it's gone. 1 mark is gone. Please go to question number 4. The town has transformed into an uncontrolled sprawl of corrugated metal shacks, packed in artisanal mine entrances, and a refuse choked lake. This is also a tough one. This is the earlier one, rather easy. Corrugated metal shacks, nothing wrong with that. Usually it goes with corrugated boxes, nothing wrong with that. Uncontrolled sprawl, nothing wrong with that also. Uncontrolled, not controllable, uncontrolled sprawl, spread off, nothing wrong with that. Contextual awareness is very important over here. If you understand the context, you can spot the error. No, you guys are looking at grammar part. You're looking from grammar point of view. Every question you cannot think from grammar point of view. Understand the context. Contextual awareness is important. I don't think you guys are looking at the context. Now here, the town has transformed into an uncontrolled sprawl of corrugated metal shacks packed in the town. It talks about the town in artisanal mine entrances and a refuse choked lake. Can you expect a town in mine entrances? And can you expect a town in a refuse choked lake? Can you expect a town in a lake? That doesn't make any sense. Based on that, it should be packed around artisanal mine entrances and a refuse choked lake, not in, around, packed around something. Have you got it? You cannot expect a town in a lake. Is it practically possible? I hope you got it. What is the correct preposition over here? Packed in, not correct. Packed around something. Packed around two things. One is artisanal mine entrances, and the other, a refuse choked lake. Now, the problem here, please listen very carefully. You have to change your mindset. Every question you cannot look from grammar point of view. First, you read the sentence, try to use your grammar knowledge, try to spot the error. In case you don't, my suggestion, understand the context. Based on contextual awareness, you will be able to spot the error. But if you don't look at the context, you don't try to understand the context, practically impossible to spot the error. Purely based on contextual awareness. Many of them, not all, many of them. It's an easy one. Why couldn't you get not even one student? Perhaps the students did not focus on the context. Context is important. Now, please go to para jumble. Questions are quite challenging today. That's good. This is an easy one, should not be that difficult. Para jumble. After a gap of a week or so, I don't remember, but try to get the correct order. Para jumble. What is the first one? The center's Nipun Bharat mission has set a goal. Continuity of thought. Very good. What is the first one? E is the first one. Set a goal generally takes a particular word. B, very good. Set a goal that by 2026-27, every class 3 child should be able to read with understanding at the rate of at least 60 words per minute. There's a comma. What is the third one? B is the second one. Third one is rather easy. If you get second one, third one is easy. A goal that by 2026-27, every class 3 child should be able to read with understanding at the rate of at least 60 words per minute, comma, be able to read and write numbers up to 9,999 and solve multiplication problems. So D should be the third one. These three go with one idea. What is the next one? For this purpose, 2,688 crore rupees has been set aside under the existing Samagra Shiksha scheme for 2021-22. Said education minister, so easy to make out, CA1 group. So what is the correct order? EBDCA. This is the correct order. I'm sure many students have got it right. Now let us go to the next one, closed test. Again, after a gap of perhaps a week or so. This is again related to the context goes with African continent, a particular country, Nigeria. Again, a bit disturbing, not easy to relate, but I'm sure you can get. There are two slides, total 10 blanks. Each slide you have five blanks, five words. You have to select the right word. All the five correct, very good. Today I have brought an easy one because after a gap of a week or so, I bring a tough one, then your confidence levels come down. Tomorrow again I will bring para jumble and I'll make it very tough. I know, I know. Something should be easy, something should be difficult, something should be moderate. Then that's what precisely we call balanced approach. Everything easy you cannot enjoy. Everything difficult you get demotivated. And in between some, then it's a perfect mix of every dimension. So here, heavily armed men kidnapped 140 students from a boarding school. So what is the first word for the word for the first blank? Boarding school. In northwestern Nigeria on Monday, a school official said the latest in a wave of mass what? First one, you have got it right. Mass abductions, that is right again. Mass abductions targeting school children and students. Criminal gangs often attack villages too. Criminal gangs often attack villages to do what? Ask the question, to do what? To, where is the third one? To loot, yes, waiting for that. To loot, steal cattle, and what is the fourth one? And abduct. Why do they do that? Criminal gangs often attack villages to loot, steal cattle, and abduct for what? For ransom. Ransom is an important word. What does it mean? When someone kidnaps a person, that particular person, obviously his members of his family, they try to get the person back, and the kidnappers, they demand some amount. That amount is known as a ransom, the amount demanded by the kidnappers. And there's one particular expression, I don't know how many of you know this, Stockholm Syndrome. Have you heard of this? Do you know what it means? Tell me what is the meaning of, sometimes you may get in the exam. Stockholm Syndrome means what? All the five correct? What is the meaning of Stockholm Syndrome? Have you heard of this any time? So much gap. Just say yes or no. My question, have you heard of Stockholm Syndrome? Yes, no, no, sir. Fine. Stockholm Syndrome is an interesting phenomenon. What does it mean? A kidnapper kidnaps a person. Imagine a man kidnaps a girl, and after some time, and he holds that particular girl as hostage and under his custody for some time. After some time, what happens? The girl falls in love with the kidnapper. That is what we call Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome means the person who gets kidnapped falling in love with the kidnapper. One Hindi movie they have taken, I think Highway, based on the same concept. What is it? Stockholm Syndrome. The kidnapper kidnaps a person. The person who got kidnapped falls in love with the kidnapper. That is known as Stockholm Syndrome. And in why no one knows, that's a different story. Now let us go to the second slide. Continuation of the same context. Not a joke, it is real. It is real. Because it has happened, they have coined the term. It happens in movies, it happened in reality. That is the reason why they have coined that particular term. Without that, they wouldn't have done it. Now the attackers opened fire and please go to the next slide. The attackers opened fire and did what? Falling for a kidnapper, exactly. Oh, Chirita movie, Telugu movie also. There must have been so many, otherwise, it wouldn't have come into, they wouldn't have coined that particular expression. Every word has a story behind, and there's a particular field, study of origin of words, what is it is known as etymology. Etymology means what? The study of origin of words. So here the attackers opened fire and overpowered, no, no, one overpowered security guards after storming the Bethel School, Baptist High School in Kaduna State in the early hours of Monday, abducting most of the 165. Easy, one reading you should be able to. Most of the 165, what? You want these types of meanings. Pupils, answer is 165 pupils means students boarding there overnight. Tactical police teams, first one, went after the kidnappers. He said, we are still on the rescue mission. We are still on the rescue mission. Who has got all the 10 correct? Close test. Has anyone got all the 10 correct? Please respond. 10 blanks, 10 words, but without options. Initial model of close test, especially children. That's right. Now let us go to the last slide, editorial vocabulary, words and meanings. Genocide, an important word. What does it mean, genocide? All the 10 correct. That's wonderful. Rishita, Manikanda, and 8 is also pretty good. Soumya. Many students have got Raviteja, Aniket. Please go to Adi also. Please go to the next slide. 7 plus, you should be happy. 1D, genocide, killing of people of a particular race, community, nation, religion, caste, creed, whatever. D is the answer. Very good. And what is the second one? Indigenous communities, indigenous people, indigenous industries. Adjective, obviously. Native. What does it mean? Native. Systemic. Systemic. Adjective. What is the meaning? J. Relating to a system. Spotlight. Noun. Receiving public attention. Answer is F. Savages, savage singular, savages plural, savages noun means extremely violent, uncivilized, barbaric, savage, animal like, all these expressions you can think of. Squalid, part of speech adjective, squalid conditions. The word goes with a particular place. Extremely dirty or filthy, neglected. B is the answer. Aboriginal tribes, aboriginal people, adjective. Aboriginals, noun form, means original inhabitants of a particular place. Reparations, an important word. And reparations, obviously, it's a noun, means what? Payment for harm done in the past. Payments for injustice done in the past. Answer is I. Abuse has got many meanings. It could be a verb, it could be a noun. In this context, treat a person or an animal in a cruel way. And reconciliation, part of speech, reconcile verb, reconciliation noun, means what? Process of agreement, process of accepting something unpleasant. Answer is H. Has anyone got all the words correct? These words are very important from the exam point of view. Has anyone got all the 10 from the editorial? All the 10 correct? That is highly appreciable. All the 10 very good. Meanings as well as parts of speech. That's wonderful. That's very good. A lot of 4 or 5 students say that. I appreciate all those students. That's all for today. Have a nice day. I'll see you tomorrow. And do remember to subscribe and share. I'm going to provide the PDF. Try to download and work on that. And also, there is a Telegram group. All that you have to do, click on the link. That's it. It is not interactive. And don't think it is not working. It is working. So